I found some more accessible jazz music, and it was really fun and really successful.
No one likes high-level jazz other than high-level jazz musicians. Can I get you to introduce yourself?
Tatyana Dobrowolski, and I teach and do music around town. So I teach music and other subjects in elementary, but I also teach guitar at Capilano University for the music therapy program, and then I conduct the local bands as well.
Yeah, I didn't know it at the time, but I actually saw that you were at Fusion Fest,
Yeah.
conducting the orchestra. How did you take up the mantle of being a conductor? That seems like a lot of work.
It is and it isn't. It kind of depends on the group you're working with. And no, it's a lot of work, but it's fun work. And so then you don't really realize how much work you're doing all the time. Unless we're organizing an event, then you really feel the work. But, well, I guess it started, I was doing music therapy in schools in Vancouver, North Vancouver. And then I had kids and was like, being a contract worker kind of sucks when you have kids because you need benefits and such. And because I was working in schools, I really liked working in schools. So I decided to become an educator. And the best route for me was music education. And through that, I got experience with conducting bands and choirs. But I had some previous experience because I had a conducting certificate that I always forget about because I just did it because I thought it sounded like fun. So I did that one years ago. And then I decided to move back to Dawson. And there was, I think that one of the band members was like having dinner with my parents and complaining about how they didn't have a conductor anymore. And they're like, oh, well, our daughter just moved to town and she has experience. And so they got a hold of me and I went in. And now it's been 2 and a bit years.
Wow. Yeah, why did you move back to Dawson from Vancouver?
Because Vancouver is expensive. Hard to live.
So true. That's so true.
Vancouver is fun until you have kids, and then it sucks unless you have generational wealth. It is very difficult. It was very challenging. I really liked my jobs. Like I said, I was doing music therapy, and then I was conducting bands in elementary, which was crazy sounding, but really fun. But I had to drive 45 minutes to an hour and a half to get to work and back and forth every day.
Right, and that's just down the block. I've spent enough time down there. I know how traffic is.
And just barely making enough money to live in a tiny basement suite. And then with the same amount of money, I was able to buy a house up here. Plus, all my family's here, and so
right,
it was just a much easier move. I missed the north. I missed the pace. The very slow pace.
Yeah, it's kind of slow and steady. Things aren't too abrupt or rushed, and it's. I mean, I haven't even heard someone honk their horn in like, God, well, probably since I moved back from Vancouver. Really.
Well, that's a funny side story that when I moved to Vancouver, I had a really hard time adjusting to the horn honking because here, when somebody honks their horn, it's because they want to wave at you because it's someone you know.
Right, yeah.
So when I'd be like walking down the street and hearing horns honking, I'd always be looking to see who's that and realize, no, that's
it's a much less friendly gesture.
Just the soundscape, and it's never to say hello.
What does a conductor do? Because I'm sure everyone, and myself included, just sees a whole lot of this. And,
yes.
I mean, it looks great, and I've definitely listened to some Bach or Beethoven, and I've been going crazy with my arms, but I don't really know what that conductor actually does.
Yeah, I saw a cute video the other day where somebody from the audience is randomly pulled to conduct an orchestra, and he's just dancing and waving, and the orchestra has to follow. When you're conducting, you are shaping the sound largely you'll see when you see this kind of stuff happening, that's holding down the beat pattern. And so you're kind of the metronome for the band, but then you're also trying to conduct the phrasing. If it's going to be like a sharp sounding song, or if you want a nice smooth phrase, you're also conducting the dynamics. So the beat pattern will be a lot smaller if it's quiet piano, and then you get larger when you want more sound from the band.
Okay.
And then you also are helping certain sections come in with their entrances, especially if they have a long rest. Like the musicians are counting also.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
But sometimes if you have like a long rest, it can be hard to keep track. And so I try to keep track of that, especially if I know that certain musicians struggle more with those entrances, or they just don't have the confidence. Because sometimes you have musicians, especially in a community band, who they can play their instrument, but they don't feel confident. And so there will definitely be certain sections that I pay a lot more attention to, knowing that there is somebody who just like needs that extra. Yeah, you're right. It's your turn to come in.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's the hardest part of music is the stops. It's having to stop for 20, 30 bars and then like come in on time. Like that's probably the hardest thing that I can think of. I know like as a guitarist, you could think of like doing some weird like alternate picking, sweep, really fast stuff. But that just takes practice. But it really takes something else to like really learn how to sit there and just, count to 4 or count to 6 or whatever it is 30, 40 times.
Yeah, once you get going and you're in the rhythm, you can just keep going. And often people will be really apologetic, especially when I'm teaching kids. And if they miss their entrance, they're like, oh my God, how could I have done that? I barely even play. How did I mess that up? And I tell them exactly word for word what you said. The hardest part is the not playing. That is really tricky.
Yeah. And it's, it's good that you're just there to kind of like whip the band into shape, especially on concert days, because I can only assume that it's not like you guys are practicing every other day or something.
No.
Maybe once a month if you're lucky.
We practice once a week, actually, and that is actually the other part of it. Like what I described was what the conductor is doing while playing, but then the other role of the conductor is doing all the planning, like what the theme of this next show going to be. Well, I always ask for input because I want my band to be playing music that they enjoy playing. But then you gather repertoire based and trying to think like based on the level of the band. And so I often will grab easy pieces that I think will be easy for them, but I always pick a few that are going to be challenging for them. And then it's also my job to break down how we're going to learn the piece.
Okay.
And give tips and such of like how to practice. So this is a challenging part for you. So then I'll go through my exercise book and find exercises that will help
that kind of relate
the
to that
skill
sort of
that seems to be lacking in that piece. And so there is like a teaching component as well, which that often goes unnoticed. Like a lot of people, especially when you're working with adults and you don't notice yourself improve or like understand why you're improving. You just are playing. And so that's kind of like the invisible behind the scenes part of the conducting that I don't think people are as aware of, is how much of that work is put into it.
I didn't realize that you weren't just the metronome, but you were really like just teaching you're taking it upon yourself to teach this band of musicians. No pun intended. I wish I meant that. How to, be better. And like, I know from learning instruments just on my lonesome, or with the idea of being in a band, it's like sometimes it's hard to like know where I need to start to learn something. Like even like learning paradiddle on a drums, that took a concerted amount of effort because I didn't know like what I needed to do. And like if I had like an exercise book or something, that probably would have helped a long way.
Yeah, it's huge, and that's why the best way to improve is to play with people who are better than you, because then they can create a roadmap. And so it's really like people who are willing to put themselves in that uncomfortable position are the people who get really good.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you gotta challenge yourself and grow somewhere. Where like, really, what are you doing? You're just
Yeah.
gonna kind of stagnate. And if you're not getting better, are you really not getting worse?
Maybe developing bad habits.
Yeah.
I have a really incredible bandmate, not in the community band, but because I also play in a cover band in town, which we also played at the Fusion Fest
Oh yeah.
in
What's
June. Chick Magnet.
Chick Magnet?
And one of my bandmates was not feeling as confident, but like soaking everything up like a sponge because they're used to being a singer mainly, but have to play guitar and bass sometimes and had never played bass. And so I've
Okay.
just been like teaching them all along the way. And it's really incredible because that is a person who has been willing to feel uncomfortable, knowing that this is going to lead to them being a much better player. And the growth that I saw within the year, I was like, best student ever.
That's great. I have a lot of respect for that person and that kind of person that can like really get into an uncomfortable position and just kind of let the magic happen, right?
Especially as adults. Like we want to retreat as soon as we get uncomfortable. We're not,
Yeah.
adults don't tend to be used to sucking at things. Like,
And admitting that we're, maybe not the best at something.
like
Yeah.
kids are used to everything being hard. They are used to the fact that everything needs to be learned. But at some point we go into this pattern as adults and we're just like, I just want to stay in this cozy little zone where everything is easy to me. And they're terrified to learn new things. And so often, as soon as they're uncomfortable, they'll just be like, well, this is not for me. I guess I suck at this, because they forget that everything that they're good at took hours upon hours to get there.
Yeah, absolutely. Thousands, some would say. Hours.
Yeah.
Thousands of hours to get even to an amateur level.
Yeah.
Oh, that's is there any song that I should be putting up that you guys have done? Like maybe there's someone's recorded on your phone or something from your band?
We don't have any like decent recordings, but I think we did do one recording last Christmas that I could possibly dig up that we used to advertise on the radio, I think. Curtis came in and recorded a song for us so we could pop it on the radio to advertise something. I don't even remember what. Probably the community concert or something like that.
Okay. Nice. Yeah. Cool. I'm gonna pretend like I'm listening to it right now and going, wow, that's great.
Ooh, I can't even remember what the song was. It may have been "Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas." I don't remember.
Have you done studio work in the past other than this? Like just recording even like your own solo stuff?
Yeah, I have done a little bit of that. When I was in Vancouver, I had a music project called Tatters and Ravens, and we recorded
Cool name.
an EP. Oh, thanks. And did a little tour, and like the 2 times that I've experienced touring, the band broke up shortly after. We were great on the tour, but it was just, lots of life stuff. I had just had my second child, and one of the problems with finding great musicians in Vancouver is that everybody else also wants that musician. And so actually all of us played in multiple bands.
Right, yeah.
And so, eventually you just have to prioritize and choose, and then things crumble and new things come out of those things.
Yeah.
And I was just exhausted at that point.
Absolutely. There's also there's a terrifying amount of very talented musicians in that area, in the greater Vancouver area. Just everyone plays, but they're also waiting tables and working 3 other jobs and then in multiple bands to try to
And there
make
needs to
stuff
be the
work.
right relationship. Like when you're putting together a band, it's like dating in many polyamorous relationships.
Yeah.
Like all 4 or 5 of you have to jive.
Absolutely.
Otherwise it does not work. And so that is a real challenge, like your personalities, your playing styles. Like I've played with musicians who I thought were amazing people, but our playing styles didn't mesh, and so it didn't work out. Or an amazing musician who was incredibly rude. And so that didn't work out, you know. And so there's just so many components of keeping a group together. And then Vancouver, the cost of living and stuff and getting rent evicted. And then now all of a sudden you live an hour away from your bandmates.
And finding a place to practice.
And finding a place to practice that's affordable that you can all get to. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. So many moving parts. I'm so glad I didn't move to Vancouver to try to make it as a musician.
How did that go?
So I have a podcast. But it is about music.
It was really fun though. Like there was a while there where I was playing in like 3 different projects and it was just a blast. But that, like I said, that was pre-children. Even after my first child, I was still able to keep it going for quite a while. But after the second one, it was too much.
Yeah, it's really demanding trying to get everyone's schedules and personalities just to kind of line up. And yeah, I totally get that. I do love good live performance. I love playing live, and I love being in a live environment. Just to seeing like people that like the music that they're playing.
Oh yeah.
More than anything else.
I know.
I don't mind if you hit a sour note. You know, if you're solo, you play a couple of wrong notes, or if the singer's a little pitchy once in a while. If you're having fun,
No, the
I'm
energy
gonna have fun.
is so important. There's even bands that I've found, like when I was down there, that I would religiously go to their shows, but never desired to listen to their recordings.
Yeah, because it's different. It's totally different.
It's just a different energy. Like every year that Gogo Bordello would come, I would go to their shows because their live shows were just so incredible. But their music was so high intensity that I often didn't really crave that in my day-to-day life, because I like calmer music when I'm like doing different things, and music that I can like sing along, has a really lovely melody. But yeah, every show I'd be there.
Yeah, that was like me and Billy Talent. I caught it both times. I don't know why it was Billy Talent that I went to, but they were good. They were fun. I was just thinking about that because I have like everything on my wall, and so I have all my concert tickets, just kind of like a teenage boy still, just everywhere. Because I have no sense of fashion or taste or anything.
It's cold.
It is cold.
Functional.
It is cold, but I dress this poorly all year long.
Yeah, that's definitely probably one of the things that I miss the most about the city, is the access to concerts. But having said that, I think that there are people in this community who have put in a lot of work. Curtis Wynn, shout out to him. It was like done an incredible job of booking incredible acts at KPAC. The unfortunate thing being that they're poorly attended. Yeah. I'm always so disappointed when they bring in like these incredible artists and there's like 6 to 12 people in the audience.
Yeah, that's a real shame, really, because like our community needs all communities, but I really only care about our community for obvious reasons. We need that kind of like that culture of music and arts and stuff to, just to help us, get through these cold winters.
For sure.
At the very least, we need that just to like help build the community and just help everyone feel a little bit better about ourselves in these. Seriously, it's cold.
I also think that it's really important to have these acts in, because I feel like growing up here, there's a very limited scope of what you can do. Like when you're going to school and they really shuffle us into certain avenues. It's like you can work on the rig or you can be a nurse, and they're just like, they don't really bring a lot. There are definitely people in the community who try, but in general, there's not a lot of examples of what you can do. And so being more musically inclined, I didn't even think of it as an option at all, because it just didn't seem like there was that around. I didn't have a whole lot of nurturing to me as a musician until I went to Vancouver, and I went to music school to study for music therapy. And then all my instructors were telling me how amazing I was. And I was like, I've never gotten that feedback before. Except for my elementary music teacher, Gertrude Marchand, who was the previous conductor of the Kiwanis band. So that's been a pretty special full circle thing going through whenever I get repertoire, and it has her notes in it and stuff, especially from the books that she used when I was a kid. But she always told me that I was great, and I never heard that again pretty much until I became an adult and moved to Vancouver, which was odd because normally it's like the big fish, small pond, and you know your talent is too big for this community, so you go somewhere else. But in this community, it was like my talent wasn't noticed at all until I went to the big pond. And then they were like, "You're great. You should do this professionally."
I think a lot of the people that actually do music and arts and stuff in town are really good. Like every musician that I played with, I have felt like the biggest imposter.
Everybody feels
like
that
everyone
way.
is so good. I mean, from just even being around like amp lamp, and that wasn't even music I liked. It was a little too esoteric. It was just say kind of like a post-hardcore band, but they weren't like really they weren't like as hardcore. I don't know any about these things about genres of music, but they were just a local band, and they were my friends. And they just they played just such weirdly weird music, but it was like very good. It was very well put together. And I was like, I'm also in a band, and I'm just gonna play 99 Red Balloons in a minute. Like, what's going on here? Like, how am I playing on the same stage as these guys? So maybe it was just everyone's so jaded from like all the incredible talent that we have locally that they didn't realize how good you were. Long story short, sorry, I was gonna get back to that.
Well, the music scene here is also a little bit of a boys' club. Like, think of the bands in town.
Yeah, that's true.
And that was definitely something to compete against. And that was like discussion that would come up when I was like training, when I was doing my music education, and I was in a room full of all males, the only female educator. And we were talking about different cultures in the classroom. Also, I'm going to say the vast majority of them were white. And we were talking about bringing in other cultures' music, and they were steadfast against it. And I was like, because they're like, we've been using this music for years and years for a reason. I'm like, white supremacy is the reason, because there are beautiful composers all over the world. Yeah. There is no reason to stick to European. And then I brought up the point of you need to pay attention to the cultures in your classroom, not just from different countries, but like the queer kids and the girls. They are getting beaten down every step of the way. And none of them were like, I've never seen this at all. But I'm like, any woman who has made it through music school has the most resilience, because all throughout music school, there are backhanded comments from the guys all the time. There was a group in Vancouver that was started that I was invited to join called You Play Pretty Good for a Girl, because that was how all of us were treated all throughout music school. And that was the light insult. Like, usually, like when I was doing really well in guitar, the boys would make comments about like, well, it's because the teacher has a crush on you, or they would have excuses as to why we had a good grade. It wasn't because, it could never be because we worked hard and were talented. That's what we put up with the whole time. Not to mention teachers, the male teachers. It was very common culture for the male teachers to try to date their female students. And so females in the music scene are used to that treatment. everywhere. And I did experience that when I would come home from music school and I would be better at something than the guys. They would always feel that they needed to bring me down a couple pegs.
Right, because they couldn't possibly, take that little hit to the ego.
No. They'd be like, can you believe her trying to do this? Are you serious? And so that is definitely a bit of an issue of trying to be a female musician, especially when you're in a smaller pool. I found a lot of brilliant female musicians, and we would pick and choose the males we played with because a lot of the males would do the same thing and try and knock down the egos so that they could feel like they were the bigger person in the band,
right.
Even if it wasn't their band.
And even if they weren't the best person
even if
band?
They didn't do any of the songwriting or any of the organization, they would try to be like the main person. And so that was a tricky component. Just being a female in the music scene is quite challenging.
Right. And now you're kind of taken up the mantra of being the leader of that.
Yeah, and it's such a goal for me for music to be as inclusive as possible. And Kiwanis is really great because our group feels similarly, and so we do things like they try to keep prices as low as possible, and we'll be like, we will absorb costs so that like youth can join this band. Right. All the instrument rent, there's no rental fee.
What?
Which makes it really hard to keep track of instruments because they don't charge any kind of penalties just because they're trying to keep it as accessible as possible. And like they've even agreed to do like huge discounts for multi-family member, like multi-household member.
Okay, to the point where you're just taking a huge financial hit
just because it's such a challenging thing when you come from a larger family and you're trying to have your kids involved in an activity. Like the band is the cheapest activity you can be involved with in this town.
Because even like a cheap like trumpet, for example, like a cheap but still playable trumpet is going to be like almost $1,000, right?
Yeah, you're going to be spending hundreds of dollars. Yeah. So it's really lovely that they feel the same as I do about accessibility and equity in music.
Good. Yeah. I'm now embarrassed because I actually can't think of one composer that isn't European. So now I have something to look into now. I may be part of the problem.
Well, it's good that you can admit it.
Well, I mean, it's staring me right in the face.
Admitting is
hard not to.
Half the battle, right?
What's a good first composer I should be looking at?
I would just say hop on Spotify or Google. And well, I honestly don't know composers. I just know music.
Okay.
The only composers I was more familiar with were like guitar and classical voice. Like I usually look for repertoire and I promptly forget who the composers are. Embarrassed also. But like I was a really big fan of Latin composers.
Okay.
When I was doing classical guitar, I can't even remember who my favorite one was. I have a bunch of his exercise books because I really loved his music, but no matter how much I love their music, the names don't stick in my head.
Yeah, it's funny. It's funny how you're really focused on getting the music part right and not the name. That's.
But I'm a huge fan of like Latin compositions.
Oh, and I am terrified of anything that isn't 4/4. But that's okay.
That was probably one of the biggest challenges when I came to conduct here, is that the band has a lot of medleys. And medleys are so fun, but
yeah, fun to listen to and fun to play.
There's a lot of like key or tempo changes and time signature changes, and it really pushed me because I was used to doing elementary and I did some high school band stuff, but like the grade 8s.
Right.
And the music was more straightforward, and then I'm like, oh my god, all over the place.
I remember in the high school class actually that basically we were told You pick a time signature, you pick a tempo, you pick a key, you stick with it. Period. And I went, wait, oh, hang on a second. That doesn't sound right.
No, it's not. But but when you're a beginner, when you're going through the exercise books, it's going to be all the same for quite a while so that you can focus on reading.
Yeah, well, really, like tempo and reading are like I can't even read, so I'm just going to say tempo is above all the most important thing. If you can keep time, that's great.
And that's a big part of the conductor's job. Well, and the band's job to try and look up, which is tricky because you're
right. Yeah, because you're trying to read your music. Yeah,
that sometimes it's hard. So you have a good drummer, then you're set.
Mm-hmm.
If the drummer and the conductor have a good relationship, then they really cradle the band.
Yeah, absolutely. Because your drummer is sort of the heart of the orchestra.
Yeah,
I guess.
Because then they can listen, especially for the less secure players who tend to be glued to their page.
Mm-hmm.
If they can hear that beat, then they're gonna.
If you can get a good drummer that just sort of like has a one-on-one with those weaker, more shy players, go, I'm going to do this fill. I'm only going to do this fill right before you come in. That's it. You've made it. You found your guy. Hope he doesn't move because that's your drummer.
Our drummer moved. We've had a new drummer come in who is like really eager, but like doesn't have the same experience. But the drummer we had for years was that person. And we would just like lock in, and no matter any like slight tempo changes I made, he would follow, and it was really great. But then we did find that when he was away, that the band would crumble. And I was like, this is very telling.
Yeah.
Maybe we need to work on looking up.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding. Yeah, I guess if you have a strong
He definitely
tempo.
became a crutch.
Yeah.
And
he
we
just
did
becomes a
learn that.
crutch.
And he started staying away more, and it really helped the band improve and learn to trust the page and trust the conductor.
Yeah. Yeah. I got so used to listening to a click when I was playing that as soon as I didn't have that click, I had to learn how to like count again because as soon as that click was gone, I was all over
your
the
internal
place.
tempo wasn't great. Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, it was weird. Well, you'd think that with the click, but I just started relying on it too much that I just kind of forgot where I was as far as like just trying to keep the same, whatever 220 or whatever throughout a whole song. Which I don't know. I don't think I'm there yet, but maybe I am. Maybe I'm back to where I used to be. I don't know if you know this, but I grew up in a musical family. Ryan is a musician. I'm sure you've met him. Yes.
I know your brothers. I didn't know you were a musician.
And our father. And our mother too, actually, and her family too. But our father, Tom Leewood, played in the jazz band for years and years.
Oh.
I believe my mom was playing flute with Mrs. Lopp back years and years ago. I don't even know if
For the operetta?
Yeah, I think so. And
does your mom still play flute?
She can, but she does not.
Oh, we need flautists desperately.
Yes. Yeah, I'm sure. That's not an easy. Well, wind instruments just gas me out immediately, so I can't even imagine. Is flute really that bad?
There's no resistance, like because the other ones have like mouthpieces, and so flute you get like winded really easily.
Oh.
Yeah, you have to like completely like your embouchure has to be completely controlled by you. You have no mouthpiece to work against, which can help build and control your embouchure.
I knew my mom was full of hot air.
How dare you?
She said worse things to my face. It's fine.
So your whole family plays.
Yes, except for me, I guess. No, yeah, we all have played at one point or another, or do play. You're getting back into music. I've abandoned music, but I'm starting to do it again. So yeah, that's I have a vested interest in having music come back into the community.
Yeah.
Because apparently now, from what I heard, and I don't know this is true, but I had someone from the inside tell me that they don't even have music courses anymore. They've
In
stripped out a
schools?
lot of
Yeah.
the arts programs.
Yeah. It's up to each individual administrator. Frank Ross has full-time music teacher, Carmen Criada, who's in Chick Magnet with me. Canalta has part-time music, and me working at Tremblay, it's also part-time music.
Okay.
I actually kind of sneak music in where I'm not supposed to, but nobody complains because everybody likes it. Technically, I'm the social studies teacher, but
Right. But if you
but my students get quite a bit of music, and
good,
other
good.
teachers will like swap with me. So they're like, "Can you teach my kids a song?" And I'll take your kids and do something with them.
Music has been known to bolster the brain in like many different ways, and if your brain is stronger overall,
Yeah.
that's only benefits.
And it's just like the emotional component as well, like music. It's just so wonderful. Like I said, I used to do music therapy in schools, and I used to do it in alt ed, which is the kids who have basically been abandoned or just like had a horrible time in the regular school, and so then we would get them. And it just, yeah, the life skills that you learn from music. One of the things is that like music can often be that one course. Phys ed is similar, where a kid who is struggling in every other subject can come home with a good grade in this class, and it can just boost them and give them confidence. And I've had students, like this is one of my favorites, testimony I had from a kid in the high school that I worked at when they went out and got their first job. And I was like, oh, I'm so proud of you, because this kid really struggled with anxiety. And so getting a job would just felt like this insurmountable task. And they told me, yeah, well, you know, what I thought of is how when I was learning to play the bass, how that was hard and I didn't think I could do it, but then I did. And so I thought, hey, maybe getting a job is like that. And I was like, that's exactly why we do this. It's
awesome.
to get that sensation of this is a hard thing, but because music has an intrinsic reward of like, if I work hard, it sounds good. And then this sounds good. So you want to keep doing it. And so a lot of people are able to push through the anxiety and build resilience and learn that, ooh, anxiety does not necessarily mean that I should avoid this thing. I'm scared of it, but not for like a real reason.
Yeah.
And so then they push through, and it's amazing. And then they start learning when they feel anxiety in other areas. Oh, maybe this is like that. And it's not actually warning bells. It's just unfamiliar. And if I push through, I'm also going to get that good feeling that I got when I got up on stage that one time.
That's awesome.
And I have seen that result often in like children and youth. And yeah. So it is sad that there's not more music in schools, because it can just boost the mental health and the resilience piece so much.
Yeah, totally. And honestly, I think first job is way easier than learning bass. Bass is, you think, 4 strings, less work than a guitar. No, it's like 4 times as much.
So that rhythm, you got to have that super solid rhythm.
Mm-hmm. Well,
It's so
you're
funny.
learning that instrument, but you're basically learning half of an instrument, because drums and bass traditionally in like a rock band, that's one instrument played by 2 people. Because if you're drummer and you're bassist, if they don't get along,
Yeah, they got to have good chemistry.
that's good to know that at least in the elementary schools somewhere, some of them have.
Some of us are
Yeah.
doing our darndest to get music into as many kids as we can.
Yeah, because like no, when I heard like the middle school didn't have a music program, for reasons, and you know what, that's understandable. That's not okay.
They do have music now, I think, but
Do they?
I don't have a clue what the music program looks like, though.
Mm.
I don't know anything about it, so no comment.
I mean, it could just be a bunch of, hopefully it's structured in some sort of way. If it's just, pick up a guitar and go sit in a corner for half an hour. That's no good. Like, unless you're like a really focused individual driven to do that thing.
Then you can do that at home.
Why did you start playing music? What made you, what was that driving force?
Well, that's a multi-stage thing. There was just always music in my household, and I grew up in like church. And so then there was always like the singing on Sunday, and my mom being Brazilian, we were always dancing. And so there's just like always music in my household. So, you know, I was just born doing it. But like at different stages, I took different steps. Like in elementary school, we had Gertrude Marchand, and so she started me on band instrument, and then didn't really have anything until high school, and then we had the theater program with Fred Clem, and then Debbie Longley came when I was in grade 12, and so that was really fun. I really loved doing theater, even though acting is terrifying to me, but acting through music is like, I'm there.
I feel like with music you have a shield.
Yes.
You have like your teddy bear. Mine was a guitar.
Yeah. I only ever did one play that didn't have music, and that was hard. It was still fun, but it was like way harder for me. I can memorize lyrics for days, but learning words without a melody cue, that's a lot harder. And I felt so much more vulnerable.
That's a lot to ask. Just memorizing words.
That's nuts. But when I started really like playing for myself would have been right after high school, when everybody went to university and I didn't, even though I was like in the top of my class. But I didn't really have great organizational skills. And so applying for schools was very challenging for me. And, you know, when you come from a big family, often your parents don't do as much for you. And so I didn't have anybody helping me with my applications.
Right.
And so my applications kind of gotten late, and I did get accepted to a couple schools, but could not organize housing for myself. And so I was just like, screw it. I'm going to stay home and save money and travel for a bit. But during that time when I was very bored, I was like, hey, this seems like a good time to learn to play the guitar. And so I started playing the guitar and started writing. I found that to be very like therapeutic for myself. And then eventually was like, hey, discovered music therapy and decided I wanted to do that. And so then I started taking music more seriously. But yeah, during my education for that, I just really started taking like lessons more seriously and getting more joy out of being like really good at things instead of just doing it casually in my bedroom.
Right.
And
you have a goal. You have a purpose.
Yeah. Slowly started getting over the stage fright and enjoying performing more and more.
Right. You don't really ever get over stage
No,
fright.
you don't.
But
And that's something
you
I always
can
try to
manage it better.
I always try to tell people, like, when they're like, but I'm so nervous, I have stage fright. Because they, like, saying with anxiety, they often think that means they shouldn't do it. And I was like, I am nervous every time I perform. But the rush you get after and, like, during as well.
It's fantastic. I recommend everyone try it.
It's amazing. And being able to play music with other people is just the greatest thing.
Yeah, if you can get like 2 or 3 bandmates that you actually get along with, that kinship right there, that is something else. And you can almost read each other's minds.
Well, and it's like that. It becomes like a spiritual level. Like I remember, and I've heard other people make this, like, draw this conclusion as well. When I was growing up and I was super religious, which I'm no longer religious, but like, I remember my cousin asked me, like, why do you believe in God? And I'd be like, well, you know, I just like have this feeling in my body. And when I got older and was playing music with people, I was like, it was always the music. That's always what it was, is that I always felt that like spirit flowing through me when I was singing with a whole bunch of people. And I was like, oh, it's the Holy Spirit. And then I got old, like kept playing music and left the church and really rethought the way that I looked at the world. And I would continue to get this feeling whenever I was making music with a bunch of people. And I was like, oh, it's that connection, that community connection was the real, was actually what I was getting out of church, was the community connection. It wasn't the religious stuff. It was the music. And I was like, wow, that's powerful. And playing music with people can give you that incredible rush of endorphins, just that warmth inside.
Yeah. Wow. I can't believe the music was in you the whole time. I apologize. Wow, that's incredible. That's incredible how powerful that music can be. Like how can it has like driven most of your adult life even.
Yeah, for sure. It's been part of everything.
Yeah, it's tough to make a living doing anything like this. I'm really glad you're having some sort of success, even if it's sort of like ninja sneaky success.
I've even used it in my academic career, and it's been amazing. Like when I was working on my master's, which was in like education, Indigenous education, and every chance I got when they'd be like, we want you to present the materials in a creative way, and I was like writing a song. and it was so effective, and it would really like drive the point home, and just find people would be like moved by my research because I put it through song.
It's a very engaging medium.
We made a podcast to present our research, and I wrote and recorded the theme song, and I was just like, I'm going to use music in literally everything I do.
That's great. I'm gonna run everything through. I'm gonna run this whole podcast through auto-tune and what's that effect where it takes vocoder? Yeah.
Yes.
Run everything through a vocoder, not auto-tune, a vocoder. Yeah.
I just harmonized interview.
Yeah, exactly. I think how can you not be engaged by that? So I usually like to ask, sort of as a closer to the interview, what advice would you give your younger self about starting out on this journey, like giving them some sort of a tip to get where you are now faster?
Oh God. Oh Lord. That's a tricky one. Maybe you may be good at science, but don't pursue that at all. Science and post-secondary is going to be a totally different thing. Just go straight to music and humanities. Definitely wasted a few years.
Not
pursuing
go take
science,
up the trades.
Science and math.
Okay.
Just because you're good at it doesn't mean you're going to like it.
I wonder where exactly you found out that instead of being fun, it was becoming a chore. I know where that point was for me, and it was right when I started learning about chemistry, and I went, I don't like this anymore.
It was as soon as I started taking it in college, it was a totally different ball game, and I was like, I don't care enough about this to put in the effort.
Yeah, and oh boy, the sciences demand all effort.
Being like naturally inclined towards something does not always mean it should be your path.
Yeah, because you got to be passionate about it.
Yes.
I heard an amazing quote. Unfortunately, I cannot give the author credit because I don't remember who they are. It was a German author, and the English translation is do whatever you want, which sort of could be misconstrued to a couple of different meanings. But the meaning that what he meant, and what I'm sort of like gonna create like a paraphrase that I'm going to try to put out into the world is find what you are truly passionate about and do that. Just find what you love and do it. Like, because that's what he meant. That's like that was the essence of what he was trying to go for, but it wasn't, I don't know, it wasn't direct enough, but I felt the, I felt the wisdom in that
and
quote.
I often tell that to students of mine as well, when they may be comparing themselves to somebody who's more naturally inclined, and you're like, and I often tell them, like, the hard work and the like passion is going to bring you farther. There are always those exceptions, those people who are just like, I don't know, they've been reincarnated 6 times and they've always been a musician. But those people who they do no effort, but from teaching for years and years, I will have a naturally gifted student come in and another one who struggles, but they really want to get good and they put in way more hours. And by the end of even 2 years with these 2 students, they either look the same by the end or the hard worker has surpassed the other one.
I have never met a person that is genuinely good at something that didn't put in a ton of work. Like, even if they were truly gifted by who knows to, in the first place, but like my father, he certainly has the gift. He has like just about perfect pitch. He can like hear a chord and know what it is. Like he's that kind of musician. Boy, he had a good work ethic.
Oh, for sure.
He knuckled under and just kept working at it until, he got to a incredible level that I don't think I'll ever be able to reach. But I'm going to try. But he's just, he makes me look mortal. He less than mortal.
Well, and I think that's, when I was talking about how adults have a hard time trying something new. And that's another thing, is that adults often underestimate how much time they have left. Where they're like, oh, well, I'm already 30. It's too late to start something new. And you're like, so when are you planning on dying? Because
that's
if
like 60
you
years.
Live an average life, you're not even halfway done. Like one of our clarinet players, I think she said she joined the band when she was in her 60s. And our tenor sax started in his 40s. And there's so much time to get good at something.
Okay, well, thank you very much. It's been a pleasure having you on, Tatyana.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna have to come check out the band.
Yeah, you should come see Chick Magnet.
Yeah, Chick Magnet too. I met the band, but yeah, Chick Magnet too.
The band too. Yes.
I have a fascination for big band music.
Oh yeah,
that
it's
I
fun.
Cannot understand.
Yeah, we should be. I think we are planning on doing a Valentine's dance teaming up with the Jitterbugs.
Nice.
We did one last spring where we played more like big band and dance music, and it was a big success. And so we were gonna do it for Valentine's Day.
That
or
sounds
like
awesome.
the 15th, maybe not on Valentine's Day, but the weekend.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It was the first time that the whole band got to play more jazz music, because normally they just like pull select players and play like really higher level jazz. But I found some more accessible jazz music, and it was really fun and really successful.
No one likes high-level jazz other than high-level jazz musicians. I said it. And I mean it. I
went to a school that is known for their jazz program, and I went to a lot of university jazz shows. Now, I will say there's a huge difference between like beginner jazz, like first year university jazz performance, and then when you see them again years later, once they've graduated, they
Yeah.
chill out.
Oh, good. They
Early
have less to
jazz, like,
prove,
I'm going to
you
play
know?
all the notes because now that I know them, I'm going to play them all.
Yeah. Yeah. And now that I can, I can make an excuse for all of these notes.
Down the
I'm gonna
road.
play
Oh,
them.
totally. Whenever they mess up, it's jazz.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whenever you hit a bad note or chord, it's jazz.
Because I've heard some beautiful, beautiful jazz music, and I have a
big-
bit of a
band
tolerance for
stuff.
dissonance.
Yes.
I'm attracted to dissonant and like weird and archaic like stuff. But I've watched people crawl out of their skin listening to the same
Yes.
music. I'm like, this is beautiful.
I had a
No, it's
teacher
not.
tell me I was a harmony pervert once.
Yeah. That rings some bells. Okay. I think unless you have anything to say to the general public, so this is going to be on
I'm
TELUS. This is on TELUS. Okay.
I didn't even wear makeup.
I didn't put any makeup on. That's fine. I only got 25% of a sleep.
I have massage headlines.
Great. So you've just been relaxed and loopy this entire entire time. Okay. I think that's it. Unless you've already.
Do you have a sweet tagline?
Nope. Oh yeah. Wait. Look at that camera.
Which one?
Wave. That one. Just wave. For like 40 seconds. Okay, I have a lot of credits. Okay. Yes.
All right, that was fun.